That diva word has been so misused and so abused. It's sickening. Diva is not a word that I love connected with Patti.
He whispered in her ear, "You sing like a symphony in bed." 3 days later, he called her a washed-up old hag in front of a panel of record executives. Patti LaBelle knows men like that all too well. They caress her when she's naked, then stab her in the back with dirty contracts. They moan in ecstasy but murder her dreams backstage. Today, at 81, Patti is done staying silent. One of the 5 names about to be exposed once whispered sweet nothings, then buried her entire career. One of them slept with her. One turned her bed into a filthy negotiation table. Think you know who they are? You've only heard the melody. Today, you'll hear the whole truth. They once made her moan in the dark. Now they'll tremble under the spotlight. This is no longer a confession, it's an unflinching reckoning. Don't miss it. Hit subscribe now so you don't lose the chance to witness the truth the world has tried to hide for decades. Comment below, who do you think she'll expose first? Who once lay in bed, under the lights, and then vanished, leaving a scar?
I have a cat, a dog, and a jar full of butterflies. These were my friends. And so,
before the whispers in bed and the backstabbing backstage, she was once a child, born in 1944, raised amid racial prejudice and domestic violence. No spotlight. No audience. Just the echo of loneliness in the throat of a little girl named Patricia Holt, whom the world would later know as Patti LaBelle. Patti didn't come from a fairy tale. Her father was an alcoholic, her mother gravely ill, and her childhood was filled with sleepless nights fearing her father's wrath. She grew up with music as her only armor against violence and poverty. When she was invited to join the Bluebells, she had no idea she was stepping into a 70-year journey that would be both dazzling and profoundly lonely. Patti sang for presidents, moved millions to tears across the globe. But behind the applause and spotlight, she was often sidelined by the very people she loved and trusted. White producers labeled her too intense, too black. Black peers feared she'd steal their spotlight. And many artists who once embraced her in public were the same ones who broke her heart behind the scenes. In the music industry, where black women must fight twice as hard to be seen, Patti LaBelle has been both a warrior and a casualty. She once lost her voice crying in the studio, nearly quit over stolen royalties, and sworn never to speak the names of those who betrayed her. Until now. At 81, free from contracts, labels, and reputation, Patti LaBelle chooses truth. Not for revenge, but for liberation. To understand why she stayed silent for so long, you need to know who was first. Subscribe now, to hear the name that turned her voice into an expired product and shattered the trust of an entire generation of singers. Gene Simmons, the demon-faced rocker of Kiss, once moaned hearing Patti LaBelle sing. He also turned that same voice into a sexual punchline in front of record execs. Yes, they slept together. Patti walked into his room with dreams of blending soul and rock, and left with a stain that wouldn't wash off. He whispered to her, "Your voice, it's like skin scraping my heart, hot, soft, and dangerous." He promised to bring her on stage with Kiss, to shake the world with an unprecedented musical orgasm between black and white. But 3 days later, in a Warner Brothers boardroom, Gene threw Patti's demo on the table and sneered, "Her voice? Sounds like she's moaning past her expiration date." He never wanted to sing with Patti. He wanted to possess her, with his mouth, his body, and his gossip. When Patti refused to star in a sexy promo video for the tour, Gene spread rumors that she was difficult due to menopausal hormones. One label dropped her. A show pulled her name. And she, a black diva who once made presidents weep, was buried alive in the web of powerful white men. Gene had sworn to keep their night a secret. But behind her back, he told peers Patti screamed louder than a stadium and might be past her artistic prime, but still usable with the lights off. Do you know why Patti disappeared during the summer of 1979? The press said she was ill. The truth, she collapsed after hearing a recording of Gene mocking her voice and detailing her body like a used toy. Have you ever loved the wrong Gene Simmons? Someone who touched you when you were bare, and buried you with his words in front of a crowd? Comment below. Because if you've ever been betrayed by someone you once kissed, today, Patti LaBelle is speaking for you. Luther Vandross, the man who once held Patti LaBelle by the waist before thousands, who once knelt beside her in the studio and wept over a broken note, was the very one who shattered her dream with a silent, ice-cold turn of his back. Because not everyone who kills you holds a knife. Some shake your hand like an ally, then quietly pull the chair from under you. Patti once called Luther the only family I have left in this dirty industry. She gave him the spotlight, wrote songs to lift him out of his darkest depressions. What she didn't know was that while she defended Luther's name in front of the press, he was emailing the organizers of the Voices of Soul tour, asking them to remove Patti from the lineup. His reason? Patti's too old. Too intense. Too prominent. What did that mean? It meant he didn't want to share the stage with the woman who once helped him stand. When the media reported Luther's solo tour, Patti LaBelle dropped due to scheduling conflicts, she realized this wasn't a mistake. This was a quiet artistic purge, planned under the disguise of friendship. Patti didn't scream. She stood in the rehearsal room, where they once harmonized, stared at a muted mic, and said, "I don't need the spotlight. I need loyalty." But maybe, for some people, loyalty is a luxury. Hit subscribe now so you don't miss what comes next, where honor, money, and power are traded behind the curtain. Because if Luther used friendship to stab Patti in the back, the third man used the entire industry to strangle her, from her voice to her truth. No love. No pretense. Just raw power, and a contract written in black ink and cold blood. Clive Davis didn't need to touch Patti to destroy her. He didn't need caresses, didn't need whispers in bed. He only needed one thing: power. An executive chair, an exclusive contract, and a cold black pen that could turn a soul queen into a product locked in storage. When Patti signed with Arista Records, she believed Clive would elevate black voices to the level of white icons. She thought he was a pioneer. But what she didn't know was that he only wanted a Patti LaBelle who bowed, not one who sang with blood. Clive once looked her in the eye and said, "You can raise your voice, when I allow it." And he meant it. For 3 years, every recording Patti made had to pass his approval. Whenever she wanted to sing about freedom, about black women, about real pain, he shut it down. He told her, "That's not what the audience wants. They want you cheerful. You're an image, not a message." Patti once recorded an entire album filled with songs of inner struggle, titled Burning Inside. He listened and said, "Sounds like you're screaming from a prison cell. Audiences don't like jail." Then he erased the whole album, buried it in the label's vault. No one has heard it to this day. The cruelest part? He wasn't aggressive. He was polite, well-dressed, pouring fine wine, smiling, while suffocating her spirit inch by inch. He didn't hit. He tamed. And when Patti started pushing back, demanding to choose her songs and stage direction, Clive said, "There are two kinds of artists. The ones who get lifted, and the ones who get drowned. You decide." The fourth man was the one who fractured the entire black community. And she has never forgiven him. No one ever imagined Patti LaBelle and Aretha Franklin were rivals. The media called them two soul queens ruling the skies of Randy B. But behind the forced hugs on red carpets were decades of silent warfare, and a cold betrayal Patti never forgave. No one called Aretha Patti's sister, and Patti never dared to call her that either. Because during Patti's hardest years, when record labels turned away, when TV shows cut her for being no longer trendy, it was Aretha who was invited to take her place. And she accepted, without a question, without a word, without a look of empathy. In 1998, Patti was removed from the BET Awards just 48 hours before showtime, because a high-profile figure demanded the slot at the last minute. That person was Aretha. The reason? If LaBelle stands there, the spotlight will split. Patti knew. And she stayed silent. Until she stood backstage, watching Aretha perform Ain't No Way, a song originally written for Patti to debut on television. Aretha never spoke ill of Patti. But she never defended her, even when she could. In a 2004 press conference, when asked about their friendship, Aretha simply gave a faint smile and said, "We're not friends. We're two lionesses in the same territory." Patti once said, "The one who killed me wasn't the one who hated me. It was the one who stayed silent while I was humiliated, and swallowed her smile into her cheek." Aretha didn't strike. She didn't speak. She just sat there, crown on her head, and watched her sister be torn apart by golden silence. The fifth person wasn't a lover, a colleague, or a rival. She was the one who held Patti's hand for 20 years in the name of protection, then turned her into a rusted product, ready to be sold to anyone. Not Jean, not Luther, not Clive, not even Aretha. Armstead Edwards was the name Patti LaBelle spent years struggling to say out loud. Because he wasn't just the man lying next to her, he was the one sitting on every document, contract, dollar, voice, and freedom she had. He was her husband. Her manager. The only person who held the tour schedule, the bank accounts, the house, the adopted child, and even the fears she never told anyone. They married in 1969, when Patti had nothing. For nearly 40 years, she called him home. But how do you anchor yourself to someone, when they're the one holding the chain? It was Armstead who cancelled Patti's tour in the 90s without asking her, saying, "We need to pause to manage your image." It was Armstead who made backdoor deals with record labels, cutting her percentages for personal gain, and when she found out, he simply said, "I did it to keep us relevant." Sometimes, you have to stay quiet to survive. Silence. That's what he wanted. That's what Patti lived with for years. That's why she once said, "I didn't just divorce a man. I had to peel off the shadow of myself." Do you know what hurts most? Not being betrayed by your husband, but knowing he still holds everything, even the microphone, and with one word, "Don't sign," your voice could vanish from the radio forever. In the end, Patti chose freedom. Not because she wanted to leave Armstead, but because staying meant burying her true self in a grave dressed in fine wine, managed by spreadsheets, and locked by the chains of marriage. And that was the final name. The one who didn't whisper demands in bed. The one who didn't scream for the spotlight. But the one who held her hand in front of millions, then tightened his grip until she could no longer breathe. When Patti LaBelle named these names, she didn't do it for revenge. She did it to free herself. To tell young artists, you can survive, even when the people you love most are the ones who hurt you. At 81, Patti LaBelle no longer needs to top the charts. What she needs is to live her truth. And when she called them out, one by one, she reclaimed her voice, and the voice of hundreds of artists who were forced into silence. And what about you? Of the 5 names, who hurt you the most? Who shocked you the deepest? Comment below. Share this video, because once the truth is spoken, it can never be buried again. Can you imagine a girl with signature black hair, eccentric looks, but has captivated millions of hearts for many years? That is Polly Parrott, the dark goddess Abby Ciuto of NCIS. But behind the heavy makeup and mischievous smile is a fierce journey, full of pain, courage, and unbelievable surprises. From a poor childhood to TV star, from the small screen to major charity campaigns, Parrott has never stopped fighting. Parrott's journey is a wonderful story of personal growth and continuous success, creating a rich picture of one of the most interesting stars in Hollywood. Don't forget to like and sub if you are also excited to watch the real-life version of NCIS. Born on March 27, 1969 in New Orleans, Louisiana, Polly Parrott grew up in a constant storm of moving through the southern states of Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, before settling down in California. Each move was a tear in her childhood, but also a time when Polly's world expanded a little more. From an early age, she nurtured a daring dream, either to become an FBI agent or a rock star. A soul that was both serious and rebellious, which later became her distinct brand. After graduating from high school, Parrott threw herself into the criminal justice field with all her enthusiasm, from Valdosta to New York. But before her dream could take shape, her life took a turn. In the middle of her nights as a bartender to make a living, she unexpectedly caught the eye of a commercial director. An invitation to audition, and it all began. Hollywood was calling her name. Polly Parrott began her acting career like many Hollywood dreamers, with small roles that passed through the screen, but left a lasting impression. A waitressing gig on Frasier, an appearance in the first season of 24, was enough to keep viewers curious, and casting directors in mind. Her real breakthrough came when she was cast in the second season of Special Unit 2, a minor role, but one that would catapult her into the spotlight. And then in 2003, fate knocked. Polly auditioned for the role of Abby Ciuto on NCIS, a goth forensic scientist with a taste for caffeinated sodas and an IQ that would make the entire lab respect her. Donald P. Belisario wanted a genius freak, and Polly was exactly what he expected. After just a few episodes, Abby was more than just a character, she was an icon. And Polly, from a strange face, became an indispensable name on the small screen. Despite her success on NCIS, her successful career has not been without its challenges. While she has achieved fame and financial stability with a salary of $200,000 per episode, the work environment has not always been smooth. In 2018, Polly abruptly left the show after 15 years. The official reason given was to pursue new opportunities, but the reality was much more complicated. Polly has hinted at serious difficulties through cryptic tweets, suggesting that she was in danger and harassed on set. One of the most troubling incidents was a confrontation with Mark Harmon, the show's lead actor. In 2016, Harmon brought his dog onto the set, which resulted in the dog biting a crew member, causing serious injuries that required 15 stitches. Polly expressed displeasure with the dog's presence and safety concerns, leading to tension with Harmon. According to Polly, the tension escalated to the point where she was physically attacked by Harmon during an on-set altercation. Polly has recounted the fear and nightmares associated with the incident in her tweets. Details of the altercation and its aftermath remain unclear, as Harmon and the NCIS production team have remained tight-lipped. Polly's mysterious passing has left fans both shocked and confused. Not only famous for her role as the strong and intelligent Abby Ciuto in NCIS, Polly Parrott in real life is also a woman who has walked through the darkest chapters of her life and survived. But unlike in the movies, in real life, there is no script, no director. It is just her and her real nightmares. In 2015, while walking her dog in the heart of Los Angeles, Polly was suddenly attacked by a homeless man with mental illness. He threatened to kill her. In the moment of near death, fear and survival instinct collided violently. She survived, but the mental trauma is not easy to fade. Polly calls it the most terrifying experience of her life. But instead of retreating, she moved forward. Turning pain into action, Polly embarked on the fight against domestic violence, stalking and calling for attention to mental health problems she had suffered in silence. Before that, her hellish marriage to musician Coyote Shivers also caused her physical and mental abuse. Despite divorcing in 2004 and being granted a restraining order, Shivers continued to harass her until she was imprisoned in 2012. From victim to voice. From trauma to motivation. Polly Parrott is not just an actress, she is a living symbol of resilience, daring to stand up and fight for those who cannot defend themselves. After leaving NCIS, Polly Parrott announced her retirement to focus on her personal life and advocacy work. However, she returned to television in 2019 with a starring role in the CBS sitcom Broke, marking her transition to comedy. Despite high expectations, the show was cancelled after just one season due to low ratings. After Broke ended, Polly confirmed her desire to retire from acting, feeling relieved to be away from the pressures of Hollywood. She has turned her attention to charity work, particularly supporting families affected by COVID-19. Despite her ordeal, Polly remains beloved in the entertainment industry for her role as Abby Ciuto and her philanthropic work. She now lives in Los Angeles, enjoying peace and continuing to advocate for causes she believes in. Polly Parrott is an icon of the contrast between on-screen and off. On-screen, she rose to fame as Abby Ciuto, a quirky and lovable character on the series NCIS, who became a role model for many young women interested in science and forensics. However, off-screen, Polly has endured many challenges, from abusive relationships to public attacks. Despite these hardships, she has emerged as a strong and resilient role model. Polly's decision to retire from acting reflects her desire to prioritize her health and use her platform to make a positive impact. Polly's legacy lies not only in the impressive roles she has played, but also in the strength and perseverance she has shown in overcoming adversity and advocating for good causes. Despite leaving the Hollywood spotlight, Polly Parrott's story continues to inspire. It reminds us that true success is not just about fame or fortune, but the positive impact we can make in the lives of others. Polly has touched many lives through her work and social efforts, and her story continues to grow. Thank you for following the inspiring story of Polly Parrott, a woman who overcame darkness to become a light for millions. If you find her journey as dramatic and admirable as a real-life NCIS episode, don't hesitate to like, to support and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next exciting Hollywood stories. Who knows, the next character might surprise you even more.